You had one bad day. Just one. You skipped the workout. You ate the thing you weren't supposed to eat. You missed the deadline you'd been protecting for 2 weeks. And now, it's over. Not just the streak. Not just the plan. Everything. The whole thing feels ruined. And you already know what happens next. You'll wait for Monday. Or next month. Or some invisible reset button that makes it feel okay to start again. Here's what nobody tells you. The bad day didn't do that. You did that. And there's a documented psychological chain reaction, with a name, with research behind it, discovered in a pizza experiment, that explains exactly why. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Therefore, after this video, a bad day will never take you out the same way again. This is the world's shortest course on why you lose all motivation after one bad day. Let's establish something first. Nothing catastrophic happened. You missed one day. One. On a calendar with hundreds of days in it. Objectively, almost nothing occurred. But your brain didn't get that memo. Because your brain doesn't do partial credit. It doesn't see, I had a mostly good week with one imperfect day. It sees success or failure. On or off. All or nothing. This is a real, documented cognitive pattern called all or nothing thinking. Psychologist Aaron Beck identified it. David Burns made it famous. And what the research found is quietly devastating. People who think in all or nothing patterns don't just feel worse after a slip, they perform worse. They quit more. They're harder on themselves in exactly the way that backfires. Because the moment your brain rounds imperfect down to failure, something else kicks in. Something researchers discovered in a pizza lab in Toronto. And it changes everything. Psychologists Janet Polivy and C. Peter Herman ran an experiment. They brought in a group of people who were carefully watching what they ate, people trying to be consistent, people who had a standard they were holding themselves to. Sound familiar? They gave everyone an identical slice of pizza, but for some people, they made it look bigger, placed next to a larger comparison piece so it seemed like they'd had more than planned. Then they put out unlimited cookies. Here's what happened. The people who thought they'd gone over their limit, who believed they'd already blown it, ate significantly more cookies than everyone else. Not a little more, significantly more. But here's the part that should stop you cold. They all ate the exact same pizza. The ones who spiraled didn't eat more. They just thought they had. Therefore, it wasn't reality that triggered the collapse. It was the perception of failure. Polivy and Herman called it the "what the hell" effect. The internal monologue goes exactly like this. What the hell? It's already ruined. Might as well. And this doesn't live only in food. The same researchers confirmed it extends to money, exercise, productivity, anywhere you've set a standard for yourself. The moment you believe you've crossed the line disappears entirely. But it gets darker. Researchers Marlett and Gordon studied this same moment in people recovering from addiction. They called it the abstinence violation effect. And they found something crucial, something that completely reframes what's actually happening when you spiral. A lapse is not a relapse. One cigarette is not a return to smoking. One skipped day is not the end of the streak. The lapse, the slip itself, almost never causes the collapse. What causes the collapse is the thought that follows it. Specifically, blaming the slip on something permanent and internal. This happened because I have no willpower. This happened because I'm the kind of person who always fails. This is just who I am. That story, not the bad day, is what turns a lapse into a relapse. But there's something even deeper underneath all of this. Because it's not just your habit that takes a hit on a bad day. It's your identity. When you work out every day, something quietly shifts. You stop thinking, I'm someone who is trying to work out, and start thinking, I'm a person who works out. It becomes who you are, not just what you do. Miss one day, and a voice asks, are you though? That question is what actually does the damage. You didn't just skip the gym. For one day, you stopped being a gym person. And losing the identity is so much more frightening than losing the streak, because you can restart a streak tomorrow, but you can't just decide to believe in yourself again. Now here's where this gets genuinely strange. In 2010, researchers at University College London ran the definitive study on habit formation. Philippa Lally and her team tracked 96 people forming new habits over months, going to the gym, eating fruit, drinking water. Real behavior tracked in real time. They found that on average, it takes 66 days to form a habit. Fine, you've probably heard that. But here's what everyone skips. They also measured what happened when people missed a day. Missing one day had almost no measurable effect on habit formation. Almost zero. The habit resumed exactly where it left off. The bad day is harmless. Read that again. The bad day, the thing you've been treating like a catastrophe, is, according to the data, almost nothing. But then why does it feel like everything? There must be something else at play. And there is. In 2016, psychologist Martin Seligman, the man who spent decades studying helplessness and motivation, published a paper formally reversing part of his own most famous theory. For 50 years, science believed that helplessness was learned, that giving up was something bad experiences taught you. He admitted, it's the opposite. Giving up is your brain's factory default. It's the automatic, hardwired response to stress and difficulty. What you actually learn, what you build, day by day, is the sense that your actions matter, that you have control, that what you do next changes something. A bad day doesn't install helplessness. It just removes the control you'd built, temporarily exposing the factory setting underneath. This means motivation was never something you either had or didn't have. It's something you construct. And one bad day reveals the floor. It doesn't destroy the building. So what do you actually do? First, understand what the science says works, not what feels right, not what sounds tough, what the data actually shows. Researchers Brynis and Chen ran a study where participants all failed a difficult test. Then they were split into groups. Some were told to be kind to themselves about it. Some were told to feel good about themselves. Some were told nothing. The self-compassion group, the ones who were kind to themselves about the failure, spent 51% more time studying for the retest than the control group. Being kind to yourself after a bad day doesn't make you soft. It makes you try harder. Self-criticism, the research shows, creates the very paralysis people think they're fighting their way out of. Shame is not a motivational state. It is a shutdown state. Second, change what you're tracking. Restriction goals sound like, don't miss a day, don't eat badly, don't slip. Acquisition goals sound like, collect workout days, collect clean meals, collect study hours. You can't blow a collection the way you can blow a restriction. When you miss a day of collecting, you just have one fewer item. You don't burn the whole thing down. A has known this for decades. They count sober days, not as a streak to protect, but as a number to grow. Third, never miss twice. This comes directly from the smoking relapse data. Researchers tracking hundreds of real lapse episodes found that the first lapse almost never predicted relapse. It was the response to the second, third, fourth lapse that determined whether someone recovered or spiraled. One miss is an accident. 2 misses is the beginning of a new pattern. The rule isn't be perfect. The rule is, whatever happened today, tomorrow is non-negotiable. And finally, don't wait for Monday. Research on fresh starts shows that people use temporal landmarks, new weeks, new months, new years, to mentally file their failures into an old self so they can begin again. That mechanism is real and it works. But Monday is not the only fresh start available to you. This moment is a temporal landmark. Right now. The second this video ends is as valid a starting point as any Monday ever was. You don't need a perfect week. You need the next right action. Here's what this course actually taught you. Your brain has a factory setting. It's called giving up. And for a while, maybe a long while, you built something on top of it. Consistency, identity, momentum, a version of yourself you believed in. One bad day didn't destroy that. It just showed you the floor. The floor was always there. Every person who has ever built anything has stood on that same floor. The question was never whether the bad day would come. It always comes. The question is what you decide in the minutes after it. Because the science is clear on this. The bad day costs you almost nothing. The story you tell about it? That's where everything is won or lost. The first decision is human. The second decision is the whole game.